morning. It is 9 a.m. on, it is 9 a.m. on August 19th, 2020. If you would please rise with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Commissioner Boyce, you have a casualty report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do. The total line of duty deaths for police officers in the United States of America for all of 2019 is 147. We're sitting at 159 now. The last report I gave was on July 22nd. And we've gone up 24 in the country since then. Military deaths has gone up 1 to 22. And the stat that really amazes me on the firefighters has gone up 8 to 44. 2019 was 57. So, yes, Mr. Chair, would appreciate the chance to keep with our tradition. Moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you again, Board. Pretty proud of that Blue Lives flag there.
All right, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
I have.
Commissioner Gold?
I have a couple of issues. First one is the sheriff has asked to be, that's item 7D, has been asked to be put ahead. I would suggest it be after public comments. Also, introductions. Right after that, Mr. Huddle asked for a couple of minutes. And also, I'm having problems with 7B. This is a proposal to change the structure, and I think it belongs more in a workshop than here in a meeting where the public hasn't had a chance to look at all of the ins and outs, nor have the commissioners. I don't know about you, Chair Pash, but I have not seen that proposal.
So you're looking to strike 7B?
Yes, I am.
I was going to get to that, Mr. Chair.
All right.
On that BOC office reorganization, I thought there might possibly be action towards that today. My focus was to include everybody. I've dropped hints to the other elected officials who oftentimes I think are left out of some of the, especially one when you consider that we've got 110 years of experience from 3 of our people in particular. So yes, and the ARS clearly states needs to go to, or have an option and an assumption of going to the workshop. So if the commissioners aren't interested after my presentation today, I don't really want to spend any more time on it. I hope you will be interested, possibly even enthused. So we could leave it where it is, item 7C, or, excuse me, I'm sorry, 7B, or we can just, I can be the 5th presentation today. That's one of my agenda amendment requests, Mr. Chair.
Is to what?
So it's just going to be a presentation, and then I would like to set a workshop subject to board approval for the August 26th, 2 p.m. And that's on the ARS. It's also on my presentation. And it's real important, I think.
Well, I think what I'd like to see on this, before we take this in a normal meeting, I think this needs to be pulled and brought to a workshop as well. This is something that is very broad. It is very, it's a lot of change to the county from what I understand from your brief on your AGRS, and I think it's the proper thing to do to bring it directly into a workshop. And if, as you said, you wanted to bring other people in on it, at that point we can do that. And And I think that's the proper way to start this, rather than have it as a discussion or an action item in a hearing before we actually have talked about it in workshop.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
We could lose another week. We're sitting here without a finance director, and that's a major issue. We have some stumbling blocks to overcome there. So this presentation would take 10 minutes, and I think it would give everybody a chance to analyze what my feelings are and the direction I think we need to go in fairly soon. So I
Well,
don't know.
we're not without a finance director. I mean, we are essentially, yes, but we have, our finance office is the way it's been now for more than a year. Ms. Schmelzer is here until the end of the year probably. And, as you know, we're doing interviews right now for replacement. So,
I think we need to get those. Oops, excuse me. Go ahead.
so anyway, I'm just.
We're not sitting with a finance director, in my opinion, and I see some real yellow blinking lights. So, again, unless I can persuade the board, we lose another week.
Well, I think to lose another week is not going to. I mean, we're not looking at any damage to the county. I would like to. I think we need to move forward and pull this and set it for a workshop for next week would be fine.
I agree with that.
So, are you going to make a motion, or just want to?
Well, I don't know.
The whole agenda, or is that a separate item?
This will be a separate item on the agenda. In other words, when we approve the agenda, it would be removing this from the agenda and making it a workshop for next week.
So can I have a vote on that, please?
Well, we'll vote on the entire agenda.
This should be separate.
You'd like this one to be separate? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll move that we remove item 7B from the agenda to be put towards a workshop, and I'm just going to add a little caveat to that. I would like to see a more detailed plan ahead of time so I can think about it and so forth. Just coming out of the cold bothers me.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. Further discussion? Roll, please.
Mr. Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
No.
Chair Pash,
Aye.
motion carried 2-1.
Any other amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chair? Oh, I got a couple more. We have Rachel Maddock Hughes from Sequoia Consulting, and I'd like to move, that's also was listed as a possible action item, and I think this is something with the FEMA extensions that we can go ahead and bring before the board. Possible contract after you review or watch her listen to her presentation and then do the contract on 8/26 if we can. And so that would be, let's see, that would go to, we have the Sherbarth presentation, and then the Curry grant writing update and presentation from Park Resources Stan Foster, which would be the second presentation. The third one would be Sequoia Consulting. Oh, excuse me, and then the fourth one would be Every Child Needs a Family, the foster parenting one. So just a little, in the interest of a little reorganization there for the presentations, Mr. Chair.
So you're looking at doing C first?
Moving.
Then D?
Moving Sequoia Consulting, 7C, to a
Okay.
presentation. She come all the way from
Right.
Corvallis yesterday.
I understand. So you're looking at, the only issue I have with that is we've got a young child here that I understand is with foster parenting, and I'd like to keep that up front if we can, only because I don't want to have a young child sitting here through all the meetings and everything.
Certainly accept that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
So we're going to do 7B, and then you'd like to move we're going to do 5B, and then we're
Yes.
going to move 7C to 5C or D?
Either one.
We'll move it to,
We do D because I think we're going to
That's
have
fine.
Mr. Foster calling in here, or we're going to call him in 5, 10, 15 minutes, Mr. Chair.
so that would be 7C. Anything further?
If I may,
Yes.
I wondered if the board would be agreeable to the items on the consent agenda, 6A through D, just on a minute, so I could spend a little more time on those. No concern that they're not accurate or anything. I did a quick review, and I'd like to spend a little more time. So Mr. Jesuit is doing a terrific job catching up, and so to delay it 1 week for a little extra time would be much appreciated, Mr. Chair.
Well, A has already been, as you requested, to have it gone through and corrected, and they did find an error in it, and it was corrected by Mr. Jesuit.
So yes, if you want to.
So that one I'd like to keep on and put through. B, C, and D are fine to put off for another week.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
And I have one more. I think
Yes.
that's it. Curry County Suicide Awareness and Prevention Committee. We just need to put into the consent agenda, if we can, Mr. Chair, to accept the grants from All Care and Advanced Health. The Advanced Health is $3,600. The All Care grant is $1,800. And great work by Gordon Clay. And this is at the request of Director of Operations, Julie Smelzer. And so we just need to accept these grant awards if we can.
I would like to defer that to Ms. Schmelzer. Are we good to do that?
Yes, we are. So Mr. Clay wrote the grant applications. They actually get awarded to the county.
Okay.
We have to accept the funds before they can be expended.
Okay, so what is that? Give me the formal on the L. It'll be 6L.
6L would be so I put the order so they would be together. So it's accepting the funds from All Care in the amount of $3,562 and Advanced Health in the amount of $1,862.
Did I have the figures correct?
You rounded them. They were good. The order is specific, so it was fine.
Can I have the advanced care number again, please?
Sure. All Care was $3,562. Advanced Health was $1,862.
3,562 and 46 cents.
Got it. Anything further?
I do have one thing further.
Yes.
So every year the State Marine Board gives us a grant to help maintain some facilities. We're a little late on responding to it because they sent it to the former Parks Director, so it kind of got lost in an email thing. So they're kind of in a hurry to get it awarded, but we do have the opportunity to receive, it's less than $1,000, but it still helps with operations. So we just want to accept that grant from the Marine Board. It's called a MAP grant. And I did do an order on that, and you should have received a copy of that. We would just ask that be added to the consent agenda too, so we can finish the contract and get the money into the budget.
So done, that'll be M. Anything further?
Quite a day, huh?
That's what we're here for. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Mr. Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes?
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, we're going to do our public comments. Ms. Hidalgo?
Welcome back.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair. Thank you for this time. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, I was here to talk to you as a representative of the...
That might be. Thank.
Call him back.
Yes. Yeah, that was my last email.
Hello? Duh, missed him.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Go
that's
ahead.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, I stood here and we talked about Overdose Awareness Month. I'm back today as a Suicide Awareness and Prevention Council member to update our information. When I walked out of that meeting, I learned from another community member that we had, in fact, we don't have, well, not in fact, I shouldn't say in fact, we have heard of 6 overdoses that occurred in South County in the previous week or two from the date of this. So, and I just wanted to share with you that 2 of those overdoses resulted in fatalities. So, just just updating you on how we're doing as a county and the urgency and the demand for increased services for substance use disorder. So, thank you.
All right, so next we're going to move on to Sheriff Ward for 7D, discussion of the sheriff's salary. Ms. Swift, Payroll Human Resources. We've slid that up. Yes. Sheriff asked to have it moved up because he's got a busy schedule, so we said we would.
Julie Swift, Payroll and HR, and I was going to go back and get numbers between now and then, but...
Sorry, JJ.
Oh, well.
Ask which number we're supposed to...
Hello?
Hello, this is Stan Foster calling in to speak to the Kerr County Commission.
Would you tell him we'll call him?
Would you... Stan, this is Court. Boys, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Court. Yeah.
Thank you. We're probably going to call you in about 10 minutes, if that's okay. And was it the first of the two numbers that... is it the number you're calling on now? 330, I think, 541330? Staff Jesuit has both the numbers.
Well, my cell phone number, let me just give it to you, 541-377-1739.
That was the second number. Thank you. It should be within 10 minutes. I hope you're in a good sales spot.
Yep, we are. So,
Thanks.
I'll
Thank you, Stan.
record the call.
Okay.
Sorry, Ms. Swift.
Okay, so with the budget process, the sheriff was awarded a 5% cost of living, which of course, by statute, he has to make more than his highest paid subordinate, which is the captain. With the wage study and with the unfreezing of steps, the captain received a 5% step increase effective August 1st, and he is now making more than the sheriff. So we need to rectify that, and I just want some direction on which way you want to go with that.
And that's something that it is by statute, by
Yes.
county statute that we do.
By state
And,
statute.
and the other issue with that is rather than this being a continuing problem or issue for your office as well as this board, you know, whatever we decide here should be in perpetuity. You know, every time the captain or whoever the highest paid person is in his employ gets an increase, the sheriff should automatically be increased that much as well because he has to by state law.
Right, so, and with the step increase that the captain received, it does put him at the top of the scale, so he won't receive any more steps after this.
Okay. So, do we have what do we need to do, council, as far as do we need a motion on that to make a change?
Technically, the statutes also say before we can increase any salary of an elected official, it has to go be approved by the budget committee. So we've got to reconvene the budget committee to have them approve the increase. It's just the way things are written up. So it's...
Commissioner Gold?
Could we do that by telephone or Zoom so that it would be easier for the folks on the budget committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Or could we come up with a question for the budget committee, yes or no, for that rather than having a formal budget committee hearing? Just an email question. Sheriff, by state law, the sheriff has to make more than Cappy. Do you agree with that?
Technically, if we have a electronic meeting, we have to have access for the public and the ability for the public to participate. I personally think the Zoom idea is a better fit with the restrictions of the public meeting law.
Okay. Commissioner Boyce?
Council, I'll just address my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we will move forward with a Zoom meeting. We'll get her done.
We're getting Zoom savvy, aren't we?
All right, next we have council. You wanted to do some introductions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board. Just recently, as you know, at the end of the last fiscal, my assistant, Brenda Starbird, retired. We were looking for ways to address the needs in the legal department, and my analysis was that a contract with outside legal counsel, Shayla Kudlak, who's been here before, and then adding to that assistant duties as well, legal assistant duties, and that's going to be Rabia Lee. So I just wanted to let you know that I've already given Shayla work. She'll be appearing on our behalf next Monday at a court hearing, and then Rabia, why don't you step on up? And then I've got a little bit of work for Rabia to do today while she's here that she's going to take back with her. So there you go. And so if you guys see Rabia around, that's what she's doing, and we try to set a way for her to come here on a regularly scheduled day, a Thursday every week. So that's really what our goals are. And I want to thank the board for authorizing the contract. Really very much appreciate it.
So this is 1 day a week?
No, 1 day a week physically present. The other, so, you know, part of it, thank you. We're going to do most of the work remotely, 1 day a week.
Is the 1 day though 24 hours or 8 or?
As many as you'd like.
Yeah.
Work up slow here.
And anyway, so that's really all I've got there. I've given them stuff to do, and they'll be getting going, unless you guys have any comments at all.
Well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to work for you all again. Like John said, we will be here physically on site 1 day a week, and then, you know, throw in some more hours as needed on site if necessary. So we look forward to it.
Commissioner Boyce?
Was that your son in the hallway a bit ago?
Yes.
You know, he really smiled when I said, "Aren't you the cowboy?"
Yeah,
he got a big
well,
smile.
You also
and
would have seen his picture on the front page of the paper with his steer as well.
yeah, and the sheriff can verify this. At the last fair we had, he got to give his dad a big pie in the face. That was priceless. So I wish maybe you have a picture. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome.
All right.
All right, moving on to 5A. Years of Service Award. Sheriff Ward?
I can breathe now. Good morning, Commissioners. Today we're here to recognize Deputy Walter Sherbarth for his 25 years of service with Curry County. Deputy Sherbarth has been with the Sheriff's Office, like I said, for 25 years, and he did he started out as a seasonal Marine deputy, I believe, with Jackson County. Come over here, went to work, and did some Marine deputies, but he went into corrections several years, and then patrol for about 8 years. But the majority of his time has been with the Marine Division. Excuse me. And everybody knows Walter's one of those guys that, you know, he knows how to talk to the public, and everybody appreciates his candor. He knows how to calm a situation. He is great with public affairs. But one thing is, Walter loves kids, and kids absolutely love Walter. He does school education, teaches water safety, and spends a lot of time with each child that has a question. Recently, Walter started a program with the Forest Service, and Dave Barnes was involved with that. U.S. Coast Guard, Oregon State Marine Board, CFPLA, about getting life vests for water safety and making kiosks in certain areas in the county along the rivers that kids and adults can actually go there, pick up a life vest, and use it if they don't have any for their safety. Just this past, just this past weekend, we were out on patrol in the river on Marine Patrol, and it was amazing how we saw a bunch of kids along the river with these life vests on. The kiosks were empty. He goes back the next day, and the life jackets are back. It doesn't matter if they come up missing because they go to a good cause, and we can replace those pretty inexpensively. As a Marine deputy, he has gained notoriety all over the state as an instructor for new Marine deputies, and he's sought out by the Oregon State Marine Board as a lead instructor. Walter was asked by the Oregon State Marine Board to be a member of a group called LEAG. It's a Law Enforcement Advisory Group, and this group is a group of seasoned deputies, Marine deputies, that make policy decisions and helps with critical decisions that affect other state Marine boards around the state. Recently, Walter, I put him as the SAR coordinator for Curry County, and has done a great job. And with our SAR volunteers, he helps provide the training, equipment, and leadership for our SAR volunteers to be able to do their jobs and have positive outcomes. And I like to say that, you know, Curry County is lucky to have Walter and continue to have him. And today, again, we like to recognize him for his 25 years of service with Curry County. Walter?
Hi there. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Speech.
Have a little speech.
Well, I think the reason why the kids relate to me so much is because I was a kid when I started working at Curry County. I was thinking while the sheriff was talking, I actually started in 1992. I was almost 20 years old. I didn't come to the sheriff's office to wear the gun because when I started, I wasn't old enough to wear a gun. So I kind of learned my way through that. I'm very proud to work for Curry County. Basically, it's been my whole life, my whole childhood stemmed to Curry County, so I never had an opportunity to get myself in trouble. So very proud. I want to thank my years of service to the sheriffs that I worked for. Very respectable bunch. I liked every single one of them. I want to say thank you to Sheriff Denny. Thank you to Sheriff Owens. Thank you to Sheriff Metcalf. Thank you to Sheriff Bishop. Thank you to Sheriff Boyce. And thank you to Sheriff Ward. So those guys are the ones that helped me get through this, and hopefully I can get through a couple more and keep on going. They say I can retire at 50, but I guess we'll just see how it goes.
Commissioner Boyce?
What a wrestling career you had. You know, if you wanted some entertainment, you would watch him and my oldest son back when they were about 9, 10, and 11. It was incredible to watch, but I think my son would be quick to say, I never beat that dang Agnes Walter.
Close.
It was always very entertaining, and then you went on with a high school career that was quite impressive. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and you kind of helped me dabble in boats, if you recall. So coming from Agnes and where you were from up the river, I think I spent quite a bit of time in a boat with you and your oldest son. So thank you for kind of turning me towards your boat.
You're a great student, man.
Commissioner Gold?
You.
I just have to say, you still look like a kid, so you need to stay. Good
Thank
work.
you. Thank you. The sheriff calls and picks on me. I'm usually in bed by about 7:30, so I tell him the reason I look so good is because I get a lot of beauty sleep.
Good for you.
Thanks for your service.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate everything. Yep.
Thanks, Walter.
Oh, thank you to Dave Barnes, my man.
All right.
You're here.
All right, next we're going to move on to 5B. Every child needs a family. So we're going to need to call Mr.
Could we switch that? I thought we did. He's waiting on the side of the road with cell coverage. Am I too late, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Foster.
For Park Resources? He's waiting for us to call now.
Okay, well, we had left it because of the youth here, but I was mistaken.
Youth
on
is
the
gone, I think. No?
That's what I was just getting ready to say, was I was mistaken that the youth was with the attorneys, not with the foster parenting. So if you'd like to move 5C up, we'll do that. So if we can call Mr. Foster, then that would be fine. JJ, if you would just turn that down a notch. The wrong button. Hello?
Hello, this is Stan.
Hi, Stan. Commissioner Pash here. You are readable here in the BOC office. We are just starting on your presentation for the grant writing update for public affairs research consultants.
Okay, well,
Welcome, Stan.
would you like me to proceed? Yeah.
Would you like me to read your most recent letter on the emergency management?
If you want to, if you don't mind reading that, that'll address the first issue, I'm sure, and then I can answer questions.
Terrific. So, emergency vehicle requests, CF disaster funds, federal emergency management. Commissioner Boyce, like yourself, was very disappointed with the apparent financial determination from USDA RD, Rural Development, that we likely do not qualify for these emergency disaster relief funds because of minimal financial reserves that the county has been able to accumulate. It was not clear to me that these disaster relief funds would be administered strictly under the Community Facilities Program guidelines. Recent experience with the CF program under a strict financial eligibility review has rendered this program mostly non-effective except if you are constructing a new building. You reminded me of that 2 months ago. To be eligible for these funds, you pretty much have to be without other resources, which does not match the reality of Oregon County finances. Boy, yeah. Under the balanced budget requirements that the county must follow, the county accounts for all funds each year, and some modest reserves are absolutely prudent in wise financial management because the allocated federal funds were made as part of a disaster relief package nationwide. We never expected that this funding would have to follow the strict Community Facilities Program guidelines, which only works for building public facilities. On the surface of it, this does not even make sense because these funds were appropriated to address impacts of recent fire disasters, and our modest request for a new emergency response vehicle seem to align nicely with this intent. As a USDA RD program officer in Roseburg suggested, Curry County should send a letter to Ms. Deanna Quimby stating, she's the Roseburg, of course, representative, Quimby stating that all funds are appropriated and no discretionary funds are available for this purpose, emergency vehicle. In addition, state the fact that county auditors have recommended an emergency cash reserve be established for the county, which you are attempting to complete over several fiscal years. This recommendation was adopted as a financial goal for the county and by policy has established that these modest reserve funds must be retained to meet the target goal for financial security. In addition to this letter from the county to USDA Rural Development, I would recommend the county reach out to the staff of Senator Wyden and Merkley and Representative DeFazio asking for assistance in supporting a more lenient interpretation of this program's guidelines under the disaster allocation. It is important to realize that for any flexibility with this program to occur, this is a decision that must be made at a higher level than line staff. So while we are unhappy with the preliminary determination, it is not really the local staff's fault, Roseburg Rep, since she is required to implement the program without variation unless directed by higher authorities. I believe that the combination of no available funds for this purpose and the policy goal of building a minimal cash reserve account to support financial solvency to the county during a crisis should render the county eligible for these funds. But we can only find out if we pursue these avenues. I will be happy to address this matter directly with the County Commission should you wish more discussion. Respectfully, Stan. And Congressman DeFazio is in Curry County today. He's in Brookings as we speak at the port of Brookings Harbor on the future of a potential wastewater treatment facility there that we have very high hopes for. And then I've already been on the phone with staffs from Wyden and Merkley, and Director Smelzer and I basically tried to pursue this, and we were just a little bit discouraged. So this, because of exactly what you outlined in this letter. So maybe we can get a little bit of renewed enthusiasm, Stan, and that's where we would start. I also have on the screen here the work that you and I did when we went to Ford Family Foundation in Roseburg. Thank goodness, was back in January. So I want to defer to the other commissioners here, and then I'll have a couple questions thanks for your patience. Thanks for pulling off the side of the road. I know you're very busy, and we just really appreciate your participation here. Thank you, Mr. Foster.
Commissioner Gold?
Hey, thank you.
Okay, I'm not really sure what our purpose here today is. Are we hiring the park consulting group, or what exactly is happening here, Commissioner Boyce?
Did you want to answer that?
Can I add a little?
Sure.
So I wasn't aware of the this being on the agenda, what the details are, but I do have some background information. I think that helps with this. So there was an opportunity for disaster funds, and Commissioner Boyce had met with Deanna Quimby from USDA in Roseburg, and she gave him some pretty strong assurances that we would qualify for a grant. And so Commissioner Boyce had recommended that we write the grant for a new emergency services truck. And at that time, had recommended we hire Park Resources to actually write the grant. So Park Resources wrote the grant application, and what happened is after the grant application was submitted, USDA came back to us and said, we can't give it to you because you have money in your reserves. And our argument was, well, we have money in our reserves because we have to. Our strategic plan says we need X amount of dollars in our reserves, and next year we're not going to get as much PILT money, so we're going to need this to balance our budget for next year. So we really don't have extra money. And that was my last involvement with USDA, but my understanding is that the thought was that the board write a letter to Merkley saying, hey, we understand your rules that if there's reserves you can't get a grant, but they don't make sense and they don't apply. And we really could use your help revising those rules. Is that correct, Commissioner Boyce?
Yes, and Stan, are you able to hear Director Smelser okay?
Yeah.
And can you
Yeah, I could. Julie, the thing that I think has to happen is that the letter has to state that it is the county's policy to build these reserves, therefore they are not available for any current expenditures. And that would turn the determination of financial eligibility around theoretically.
Okay, so I think the request is to have the board submit a letter to Merkley.
And not give up on this, huh?
Is that correct,
Yeah.
Commissioner Boyce?
I think that's our next step, and I think your letter covers that very well.
Well,
Yeah, so
go ahead, Stan.
I was going to say, just so that we make the case that by policy that the court or the county commission doesn't have set a policy that would not allow us to take those funds and purchase this vehicle.
Yeah, because of the strategic plan, we can't take the money, and that's
right.
So yeah, that would change the language of the grant regulations, I'm guessing. Commissioner Gold?
Okay,
Right, that would.
that's okay. Did he have more?
Go ahead, Stan.
Well, I was just saying that that's the whole determination is based on just looking at the county budget. So if we identify to them that policy controls the county budget, which Dina knows for sure. She just needs that in writing. And then I also think that a little pressure from our senators, particularly since they were joint sponsors of this disaster relief bill, that hey, we're asking for an emergency response vehicle, fairly modest request, and we spent money to do this, and now we're running up against a brick wall. What can you do to help us? And I think once the determination is turned around, that you should be eligible for that money. And the reality is that money has to be expended by September 30th. So, or allocated. It doesn't have to be expended, but it has to be allocated. So the timing is really critical to get on this if we want to try to pull this back out and get these funds.
Okay.
So I just have one question, Mr. Foster. What process does your group go through before you apply for any grants? Do you check into these items if we're even eligible because of things like this, or just curious?
Absolutely, and
Did you find that out?
Absolutely.
Did you find that out before you wrote the grant or after it was written?
What was represented to us in Roseburg when Commissioner Boyce and I met with Ms. Quimby was that not only was the county likely eligible, but that this was a request that she thought would be easily approved. And, Court, if I'm misrepresenting that in any way, shape, please correct me. But I came out of there pretty clear that this was an eligible expense under her interpretation, which it is an eligible expense apparently. It's just that the financial determination, I didn't realize that she was bound by the strict Community Facilities Direct Loan Program, even though this is a grant. So, I'll take my responsibility for maybe not pushing Dina harder if you had reserves or something, but I was clearly under the impression, and this is directly from the USDA Rural Development official, that we should apply for this. So that was the basis of going forward.
All right.
If I may.
Commissioner Boyce?
Stan, no, your recollection is spot on, and it almost seems a bit outdated here a year later, or, well, not quite a year later, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if Ms. Quimby actually understood or was aware, none of us were, that we might run into this roadblock, which has been part of little bit of the discouragement. As you mentioned, it's a modest grant. It was from the 9-county disaster relief program. And so, yeah, we went in thinking it was, we had some very reasonable confidence there and should have, based on that conversation. So, I'll take the responsibility here and try and get a letter for board approval immediately to send to both Wyden and Merkley, as you mentioned, DeFazio, and see if we can move this forward. As far as grant writing, I was going to make a presentation today. Sounds like I'll make it at a workshop, Stan, a week from today, and part of that is the importance of one of the main opportunities any county has is to accept the competition of really getting after grants, especially the way we've been hit with COVID. So I'm going to be working hard to convince the board that I think your company comes very reputable of the work we did with the Ford Family Foundation. I've got that on the screen here. I think we can delay that. It's also modest, pulling the community together, and your approach, I think, was very good. So I'm on page 3 here. So I don't have anything else. I'm sure I'll be talking to you by phone or by email and then reporting back to the board. Thank you.
Commissioner Gold?
Okay, well,
I'm just going to add one other thing. I know your entity was brought up at one time in one of our meetings about grants and so forth, but it was never approved by the board to go ahead and work with your group, and this is nothing against you, but I don't recall that happened.
Is that accurate?
okay, Commissioner, obviously I can't address it.
No, and that's not...
Don't speak over him. Let him talk.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Stan.
So, can I just address the grant situation, just an overview? Briefly, let me just respond to the Ford family concept. At that time, the concept that was pitched to Ford was a community process to help bring people together so that we can identify the key projects that need to be completed, also the players that need to be involved in that, and then a strategy for how to sequence those funding requests so that we can maximize the potential for those grants to get approved. This is pre-COVID-19, so this was February or January. I can't remember whether it was February or January, but it was before March. And so this was prepared immediately after the meeting with Ford Family Foundation, which I've worked with for years and years. And this was really responsive to their recommendation of what they could fund. Obviously, if the county commission was was wanting to move forward with some kind of community planning process like this, we would need to reconceptualize that based on the county commission's overall input and what the overall objectives are. But this was just to get something back to both the county and potentially to Ford, so that we could see whether or not we were on the right track. And Rocky, who oversees the Institute for Community Development there, and his entire team suggested we go ahead and draft this and send this to them, and they would give us a response before we ever actually submitted a formal application. And this draft that is on the screen there, I just put that together as more or less to capture the notes, the essence of the meeting, so that we had that documented, so we knew what had been discussed and what generally was agreed to. So that it's probably an out-of-date document at this time, but it was reflective of what happened in Roseburg with the Ford Family Foundation.
Commissioner Gold?
I guess my concern is not that we're looking at these items. I think that's a good thing, but the commission was not brought along in this process. So that's my concern.
We did have.
Well, can I address that from our operational mode,
You bet.
so that I can explain how we conduct ourselves. So we've been doing grant writing for over 20 years, and we do it for a lot of different organizations. And there's been several counties that we've been their primary grant writer for years and years. Harney County, Umatilla County, Wheeler County. I mean, there's a number of them, and they all vary in terms of how much activity they actually are engaged in. But the way we work is that we work off of a pricing model that is a not-to-exceed pricing model. So if you ask us to give you a quote for a specific grant, we send an MOU which says this is what it would cost and this is the not-to-exceed price. The reason we do that is to provide budgetary certainty for our clients, and also to make sure that we're not treating one client different than the other. So everybody gets the same treatment in terms of the not-to-exceed price, and so we don't put premiums on or not. And our work with counties in the past have been, and I'm going to pick on Harney County because we did, the former county judge, Steve Grassi, he used us for 18 solid years. Of course, Harney County, if you followed, has had some budgetary issues lately with misstated carryover funds, so they pretty much have clamped everything down. But what would happen there is the county commission would say, hey, we're interested in this. They would ask us to look and see if there are any grants. We would identify some grant sources. We would send that back to them. We would also make presentations about what the purpose of the grants were and how they could be utilized. And then after all that, we would, if they decided they wanted to proceed, we'd also give them a quote, the not-to-exceed price at that time, so they have that information as well. So that then, and only after the county commission or the agency that we're working with makes the decision that they want to proceed, then they sign the MOU, and then we proceed. And honestly, when we're writing grants initially for people, we always go over the hours that not-to-exceed price is billed on. In fact, we did that with this community facility thing just because we didn't have all that institutional knowledge, and we had to go back and forth with staff. So, but that's the bottom line is that not-to-exceed price is the inviolate cost that would be the expense of the county. And we try to talk, if we think the grant is not suitable or not competitive, we will tell you that. And our clients will tell you that we talk ourselves out of work a lot of times just because we don't think it's going to be competitive. So we know that ultimately our success is your success. So we're really focused on being a part of the local team. And if you look at our prices, if you compare our prices to other firms around the Northwest, you'll find that we're very, very competitive because we work in rural communities primarily. We do occasionally get sucked into urban areas, but we try to stay out of them and work in rural areas the majority of the time. So,
Okay.
we'd love to be a part of your team, but however you want to proceed is fine with us. So.
Commissioner Gold?
I just have one last question. You did answer one of my questions that you looked at the grant ahead of time to see the percentage possible success rate you would have. So could you tell me what is your actual success rate in procuring grants for various agencies?
Oh, well, the overall success rate is probably about 38-40%. It changes with the clients. Now, we did work in Klamath County for a lot of years, and one of the nonprofits down there, for the first 8 years, every grant we wrote for them, they got approved. And they were saying, well, we did them all. I said, don't believe that, because one of these days you're not going to get one. And, I don't want you to be shocked at that. The reality is that we'll do all of the upfront work that we can to make sure that the grant is competitive, and even to the point of looking at the number of awards, looking at where the awards have gone in the past, whether or not it's going to be a political decision or whether or not it's going to be a fair and equitable decision. We can make some guesses on that based on whether the money is being directed, based on the leadership in the Congress. But we don't have a 100% crystal ball. And then occasionally there are things happen, like when 9/11 happened, the whole grant funding world turned upside down. So we had grants in process at that time that were put on hold, and obviously frustrating our clients because everything shifted to emergency relief funds and not standard program funds. So we just can't control the reviewing environment or the political environment, but we can control the prep, meeting the guidelines, ensuring that all the due diligence documents that are necessary to be competitive are prepared, and we make sure that our side of the equation, that we do everything we can to be competitive with this.
Okay.
For
Thank you, Stan. Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stan, thanks. I'm still looking at the Ford Family Foundation work that you did. I'm not convinced that it's outdated. Might need a little amending, but that's for another day, and I hope we get a chance to work with you. We had this discussion several months ago, and I tried to persuade the board that a grant writer, because we don't have one on staff, is something that we really need. And so that's the basis for my engagement with you the last few months, and you come very highly recommended by Gary Milliman, former Brookings City Administrator. I tuned into the evening meeting of the Port of Port Orford last night. They are very happy with your services. I'm not hearing the other two commissioners come up with possible recommendations for grant writing, so I'm not sure if I'm on the proper path here. I see it as critically important in raising revenues and being competitive, as I mentioned. So if we didn't have an MOU, you might recall too, when we were in Roseburg, we had invited Emergency Management Coordinator Jeremy Dumeyer and also Economic Development Coordinator, Summer Madison was doing her best to get there. And I want to say that it was kind of funny, not at the time for Mr. Dumeyer, but his truck didn't make it past Port Orford. And so we were talking to Ms. Quimby on, we need a new emergency vehicle. So anyway, just for a little, what's the word, levity. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stan, thanks a million for tuning in today, and I hope that we're able to work with you down the road. And your advice today with the national leaders, very helpful, great reminder, and I'll have something to the board fairly soon.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. I look forward someday I'd be glad. My wife is not hard to drag to the coast, so sometime if the court, if the county commission wants a face-to-face, we can definitely make that happen. And the last thing I'd like to say is that, you know, a lot of our clients are clients for years and years and years. It doesn't mean they spend money with us every year, but you need to look at grant writers, particularly contract grant writers, as just another tool in your toolkit. And, you know, you don't have to spend money with us to have us on your team.
Thank you.
With that, I would just say good luck, and I look forward to hearing from you.
All right.
And we're going to listen for your Governor Attia, Governor Kulingoski transition story someday, okay? Thank you again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So just a little clarification. I'm not quite sure what the action request is on there, but is it to send this letter to try and continue to pursue the grant for the truck? Is that what the discussion is about? Is that what staff is directed to do?
That's my understanding of what's being asked, is that we write a letter and it has to be worded as such that it is policy on our reserves, and that would change the language in the grant so that we would be qualified for that. And I might understand the work on this has already been completed, correct? So this is already something that's already been done.
You know, I might just ask the board, I mean, now that may not even be, it's been so long, and as I said, a little bit of, I don't want to say derailing, but, you know, we're really surprised we couldn't get simply on track, especially after our meeting. It may not be the priority now, but I think it's way too late with a September 30th deadline to go a different route. But of the 9 counties, of course I feel we should have been absolutely at the top of the list. That seemed to be the most logical approach and request at that time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We have a public comment from Mr. Hidalgo. Okay.
Okay, so just for clarification, though, to continue that thought, so staff is directed to follow up, work with Commissioner Boyce to follow up and make sure we get that letter out? Is that the...
And I'll sure help on that. Yes, that's my understanding. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to go to, how long is the presentation on this?
15 minutes.
Okay, yeah, 'cause we're gonna have to go to break in a while, but let's get you in if we can. So yeah, 7B, which is every child needs a family exploring foster parenting. Commissioner Boyce and Bonnie L., Advanced Health. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank
I
you.
like the logo, it's nice.
Yes. Thank you for having me. There is a slide back. I don't know that.
Would you like the mouse, by the way? Let's see.
Every child, second from the bottom on the right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You would never trust me for going to the next slide.
All right, let's see if we can. Okay. So again, thank you. I'm Bonnie L. I'm here on behalf of Every Child, Curry County, and also Advanced Health. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Advanced Health, and now the Program Director of Every Child Curry under United Way of Southwestern Oregon. So, let's see, Every Child was developed basically as an opportunity to engage caring Oregonians to help support vulnerable families and children across the state, and to provide on-ramps, easy on-ramps for community members to get involved really in the crisis that we have across the state in our foster system. So just wanted to give you a little background as to how this developed. It began in the Portland metro area with a couple foster families, parents who just realized they needed to do a little something more. So they decided to put together welcome boxes so that every child coming into care would have an age-appropriate box of something of their own to take with them to their foster placement. They also began doing makeovers and beautification projects at the local DHS offices, so that they weren't being taken into kind of a cold, sterile room, more like a home, warm, kind of warm environment. And just through their kind of efforts that developed over a few years, they were able to engage over 3,500 volunteers, community members, to gather and help support local agencies and families. They put together over 12,000 welcome boxes for children, had 13 makeovers, and had over 500 foster family inquiries. So that launched into what we now know as Every Child, and DHS recognized how beneficial it was to both the agency and to the families who were taking children in. And they asked the contingent, which used to be the Portland Leadership Foundation, now knows the contingent, to take this effort and brand it as Every Child. They piloted it with 3 counties, Lane, Jackson, and Josephine. And again, the success that they had made them realize that this needed to be a statewide model. So they gave the contingent a matching grant to expand to every county in the state. So Every Child is set up like a federation model similar to CASA, where we will have local backbone organizations that will support the effort unless the group wants to go out on their own and create their own nonprofit. We formed in Curry County last January 2019. We began forming a steering committee, getting people around the table from multiple sectors from the community. And by August of 2019, we had formed an agreement with United Way of Southwestern Oregon to be our fiscal sponsor. And through their support and just involvement in the foster community, they actually decided to come on board in a full backbone capacity. So that happened in May of this year. Our steering committee for Every Child Curry is made up of diverse representation. We have both CEOs or CCOs, All Care Health, Advanced Health. We have members from the school district, from different social service agencies. We have actually those who have been in the foster system on our steering committee, and those who had had children in the foster system, kind of as a peer support person. So our core values are to create a message of hopefulness. We believe and are determined that every child in Curry County will have a safe, loving, and strategic home. We also just really have a collaborative intention, kind of a community impact. We know we can't do this work alone, so Every Child kind of serves as a third space bridging the state and the community. And we're trying to get faith-based organizations, businesses, all sectors of the community in on this crisis. All right, that's a little hard to read, but so there's different levels of engagement, whether it's providing tangible goods for families and children, volunteering one-time projects, or caring for kids. So unfortunately, the victim rate of children that come into care across the state is about 15%. Let me see, I have my exact. 15.7 children per 1,000 is the state average. In Curry County, that average is 21.5 children per 1,000. So while our numbers of children in care are much lower than other counties, we're in the 90th percentile for children that come into care, which is not the percentage that we want to have. So there are different ways for engagement of fostering, which we provide different on-ramps. It's not everyone's and every family's intention or ability to bring children into their home. But we want to provide them with other opportunities to get involved by providing tangible needs, diapers, wipes, car seats, bedding. Before Every Child came about, there really wasn't a community-based program to support families in this way. And for many people like myself, I felt a little bit helpless and wanted to do something more. So Every Child is providing those on-ramps. We also will be hosting Foster Parent Night Out events, FP&Os. We had our first one that was supposed to take place a few months ago. We'll host those in both Gold Beach and Brookings once we're able, and that will provide some respite for foster families, a fun evening for the children in care. So that's just one opportunity to serve them. We also have a really great tangible needs platform called My Neighbor, where we allow or have an easy link for community members to sign up. And so whenever there is a need that we are requested of by DHS, we are able to meet it, usually within 24 to 48 hours. And we have a robust team. At a statewide level, at the beginning of COVID, Every Child launched the My Neighbor program. And to date, they've met over 1,500 tangible needs and have had about 1,100 Oregonians step up to support their neighbor. So we have a number of different on-ramps for volunteers and community members to get involved in very small ways. Of course, there are also the opportunities to get involved by fostering, which is a big need in our county. The majority of children that come into care in Curry County are placed with relatives. There's a relative placement, which is ideal, but if they don't have a relative placement, they often have to be sent out of the county, which just adds to the trauma that they've already gone through. We currently only have 2 to 3 general applicant foster homes, and so there is a dire need for more, especially as we anticipate an influx of children coming into care when mandatory eyes are back on children when school starts. So there is opportunity for respite care, which is just maybe providing up to 10 hours or more. So maybe it's an overnight or a weekend to give the foster family some relief. There's also short-term care or emergency care, which you'd be notified after hours on the weekends, but you wouldn't have the child in your care for more than 21 days. And then there's the long-term foster care. For both of those, the emergency care and long-term care, they need to, community members or whoever qualifies or is interested would have to go through a 24-hour foundations training. The respite care doesn't require that. So I just wanted to show you a little bit. Here's our steering committee, the group that we meet monthly and are working on our primary initiatives of foster family support, tangible needs, and then also DHS hospitality. We believe that our local workers are doing very challenging work, often with limited resources, and so we want to walk alongside them, kind of lock arms and support them. We believe these children are not just the state's, they are our community's children, and so we want to support the workers who are working day in and out with them. So we do that through monthly kind of hospitality, maybe dropping off cookies, coffee. We had lunch while they've been working remotely. We had lunch gift certificates. They were able to pick up lunch from their a restaurant in the community where they're working. We've been working fast and furious, I'd say. Over the last 12 months, we have engaged over 30 volunteers. We've served every foster family in Curry County through gift cards and also flash box deliveries to their door, which included games, activities for the kids, gift cards to restaurants. We have over 12 active community partners. We've brought in over 7,500 in tangible goods and donated items. We've raised over $5,000 in community grants. We received a large startup grant, well, $27,000 from Advanced Health, and then we just received a 3-year grant invitation by the Ford Family Foundation to continue this work. So we are really hopeful and just grateful for the support of the community. We can tell by the response that the community has been looking for an opportunity to get involved. So again, there are a number of ways to get involved. We encourage the community to go to Every Child Oregon or everychildcurry.org, and there's a connect form they can fill out and learn more about all these various on-ramps that I've mentioned. So, any questions or?
Commissioner Gold?
I just have maybe 2 quick questions. Number one, how many foster homes are you currently needing that we don't have?
Mm-hmm.
At this time?
Well, our goal this year has been to double the number, so to bring on 3 more.
Okay.
3 more general applicant homes.
Second question, do you have brochures that you give out with this information?
Yes, and I'll leave some here for you along with my card.
Okay, great, thanks.
I'd like to have one as well, please.
Okay.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Sitting in on your Zoom meeting the other day and hearing I guess testimony is the right word for some of your foster parents that took the time, and just being reminded that they are trained to be on guard, to show love and stability, of course, and at the same time not to become too attached. And I may have missed if you said it today, but a stat that just was incredible to me, that there was the average foster child spends, is it 400 and some days?
455 or 457 days in care.
I wanted to ask
on
you, is that
average.
the average in Oregon or Curry County that you have?
That was the average in Oregon.
Yes, okay, thank you. So, you know, you just take a deep breath and you kind of process this, and hurting children out there. The people that are listening, you know, inside of Curry County, outside, there is such an incredible need here, and it's just one of our tasks to try and support and understand and work as best we can. You know, I'll just, thanks for canceling your essential needs meeting today so you could be here and join in, and wonderful presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to take a 15-minute recess. We will reconvene at 10:25. All right, we are back in session. It is 10:25 on August 19th, 2020. Up next, we have what was 7C. So that is the FEMA funding, non-congregate housing. Ms. Rachel Maddox-Hughes and Commissioner Boyce.
Let me read a couple of quick letters, Mr. Chair. Before I introduce Ms. Maddox-Hughes, here's a letter from, very short, Michelle, Carol, and I have her permission. I have Miss, thank you. I have Ms. Carroll's permission to read this. She's and Beth Barker Hidalgo may want to weigh in on this just a little bit. High Court, this is 2 days ago. So is there any possibility, if we find a piece of land for sale, the county would have the funds to purchase it for a camp? The subject line is land, especially with COVID scare we had. That's what we have been afraid of will happen. If that spreads through the homeless community, they will have nowhere to isolate to, and it will spread through our community and be a big problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more real quick here. We had the board come before the board, I think on the August 5th meeting, was Diana Cooper, and I'd really like to have the board get a sense of the effort that she's been putting out, likewise in Brookings. Good evening. Most of you know that I am a community health worker at St. Timothy's in Brookings. It is late, but I've been working from sunup until just now. I just got home from St. Timothy's, where I did triage for about 20 individuals, checking temps, recording symptoms, tracing who has been near who. The reason I did this is because there are multiple sudden illnesses. By the way, this is dated Thursday, August 13th, so yes, just last Thursday. One woman was taken to the hospital with flu-like symptoms and a severe headache. She is back now, and we will have her COVID test results tomorrow. I've not heard back on that, Mr. Chair, since then. Sir, there is a lot of worry down there and quite a bit of understandable anger. They feel left out and forgotten in a pandemic. My day tomorrow will be spent taking temps for everyone, setting up testing for as many as possible, filling out emergency housing paperwork, and generally trying to keep them from being upset. I want you to be aware this is happening. This may be a fluke, and hopefully it is not COVID. Time is of the essence, though. Please let me know how public health in Curry County is addressing this issue. How can I facilitate getting them off the street and into a safe shelter? I've been advocating on the city level, and the response is not timely or reassuring. While a few may qualify for the assistance into motels, many will not, but that doesn't mean they aren't carriers. We are and have been taking strict safety measures at St. Timothy's, and will be restricting people coming into the the building tomorrow. Lunch will be even more careful, and we may not have the volunteers in the kitchen. I will be eagerly awaiting a response. I'm sorry, Commissioners, you did also get a copy of that, so I'm glad to hear that. I just want to say thanks for coming down from Corvallis. Go ahead.
Before you introduce, I think
I
Commissioner
just
Gold had a
had one
question.
comment. I did get a response from Diana, and she indicated that those who were tested for COVID were negative.
Thank you, Commissioner. And you called in on August 5th, and I think I was responsible and apologized to the board because I think we actually hung up on you a couple of times.
That's okay. I don't take it personally.
But you come very highly recommended with Association of Oregon Counties, and I did my research and really appreciate the work that you've done for Lincoln and Lynn counties. I know the two of the commissioners in Lynn County pretty well, and certainly Lincoln County is they're doing their best to move forward. So thank you for being here today, and we're all ears. And I did, by the way, give a copy of your presentation, paper copy, to the board members. And yeah, thank you again.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners and the public. I am Rachel Maddock-Hughes. I am the founder of Sequoia Consulting. Prior to launching my business earlier this year, I was the Deputy Director for Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments up in the Lynn-Benton-Lincoln region. And so I'm very used to working with and supporting local jurisdictions. And I started my business in general so that I could do more of that on a more statewide basis. So starting early this year, I began helping regions, local jurisdictions in my region, Lynn, Benton, Lincoln, and Lane, with their COVID response and recovery efforts. And one of many projects that we tackled was helping them navigate all that is FEMA, getting public assistance applications in, and then also helping them to get their non-congregate shelter pre-awards through FEMA. That can be a very expensive endeavor, as I'm sure that you guys and your local nonprofits who are doing this work know. And so getting that application in so that those costs can be covered through FEMA is really important. So just a little bit of background about me and the business. My mission is really to create thriving communities in Oregon. I am an Oregonian, born and bred, raised in Corvallis, spent about 20 years outside of Corvallis, some overseas, some in Portland, but moved back home to my rural community, which is where I feel most at home. And my goal is to give back to the communities that I live in and that are in Oregon. Integral to what I do are my values, and that is integrity, partnership building, relationship building, practical ideas and decision making, not coming in with such high and mighty ideas or recommendations that they can't be implemented at the local level, and having fun. I absolutely love what I do, getting to help support local communities. So Sequoia Consulting is made up of two folks, myself and Sherry DeLeon. Between us, we have 40 years of experience in the public sector, nonprofit, private enterprise, and academic worlds. I myself have worked and led multi-sector partnerships all over the world, raised millions of dollars for communities here and abroad, and responded to emergencies anywhere from a cyclone in Southeast Asia to conflict in Afghanistan to COVID here at home. So I have kind of a trifecta of skills around program development, partnership building, and resource development that really allows me to support communities, projects, and initiatives and get things going really quickly. Since I started earlier this year, we've brought on 10 clients. You'll see some of your northern neighbors up there: Lincoln County, City of Toledo, Lynn County, Benton County, Association of Oregon Counties. I've got 2 clients in Ghana because I like to keep my toe in the international waters. It gives me something to look forward to. The City of Siletz, Jefferson County, and Chance Recovery, which is a nonprofit in Lynn County providing non-congregate shelter services to 3 counties. So we're working with a lot of people around the region. So since we started, and it has been a very quick trip so far, we have been the non-congregate shelter liaison for FEMA for Lynn and Lincoln counties. We were in charge of getting their non-congregate shelter award to both of those counties, 2 of only 10, or less than 10 at the time. I think there's about 10 to 12 statewide who have gotten this. We've won money for local nonprofits who are partners in helping to do non-congregate shelter for counties during COVID. We've also won money for local nonprofits like Centro de Ayuda, who does outreach to the local Hispanic community in Lincoln County because they have been particularly hard hit by this virus up there. We've launched the Maritime Innovation Center initiative in Lincoln County, which is going to be a workforce development initiative primarily, and also a rural broadband initiative, because we know, I think we all know that has been an issue across rural Oregon, but now with COVID and everyone trying to do distance learning, telehealth, and telework, those challenges are just tenfold. So we've submitted money to the submitted an application to the Economic Development Administration to get feasibility studies done across Lynn, Benton, Lincoln, and Lane to help us figure out exactly what we need to do with infrastructure projects to move forward. And then we'll be applying for those projects, which is going to be probably in the, I don't know, $50 to $70 million range as soon as we get those feasibility studies done. Our local businesses have been hard hit by COVID, and I brought in about $325,000 with another $150 pending for emergency business grants. And we've launched an arts and culture revitalization project for downtown Toledo. Can't do this without partnership. Local leaders and local champions are the folks that we work with. So whether it's on FEMA, non-congregate shelter, or a different economic project long-term, you guys are our guides. We're not coming in to tell you what to do. We're here to help you make it happen. I also have very strong relationships with Business Oregon, the Regional Solutions team, and I might regret saying this, but I have experience with community development block grants, which Port Orford, also by the way, that's open right now. Port Orford qualifies for quite a bit. Y'all might want to think about looking into that right now.
We have the project.
Okay, you have a project, well then you probably should look at funding right now, because it's due pretty soon. Yeah, so how can we support Curry County? We can do a lot of stuff around non-congregate shelter and helping whoever your local partners are, make sure that things are covered, make sure that funding is getting, costs are getting reimbursed. CARES can be used to help you guys with non-congregate shelter, but that money is going to run out. So how do you stretch your dollar? That's really important, and FEMA can help you do that because they will cover 75% of your costs. So we can help you navigate the FEMA world, which is a lot of bureaucracy, unfortunately. We can help you with programmatic setup. I'm here because AOC started a turnkey initiative, which is basically they wanted to help other counties get non-congregate shelter up and running. It isn't easy either to get it up and running and to get it funded. And so I have connections through AOC with the Oregon restaurant and lodging industry to help overcome issues you might have locally, and to help you guys look at different options for providing this long term, because unfortunately it doesn't seem like this pandemic is going away anytime soon. That is one part of what we can do for you guys, and I wanted to make sure that you guys have other options as well, because the great thing about the work that I do and my team does is that it's all 100% reimbursable under CARES. So that is one of the best benefits, especially for smaller rural counties that haven't necessarily had a lot of resources to put towards, whether it be grant writing. Obviously it sounds like you guys have somebody tapped for that already. He sounds great. Or other initiatives you want to get up and started. Now is the time, and as long as it's under COVID response and COVID recovery, our costs can be reimbursed for that. So I also really liked your 2025 strategic plan, by the way. I think that is fantastic, and that's a lot of hard work that went into that. So FEMA, to your strategic plan, we can help you with any or all of those things. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer questions.
Commissioner Gold?
I always have questions. Old school teacher. I guess my main question is, COVID's not going to be here forever, so you must have some sort of a charge structure. How do you get your money?
I have an hourly fee. It's just a flat hourly fee.
Okay.
Yep. And we can do, with some of my clients, like the City of Siletz, we're doing a not to exceed contract, so they can put their toe in the water and decide, and also manage their budgets, quite frankly.
One other question.
Yes.
How successful are you in getting these grants?
That's a really good question. Well, it depends on the client and it depends on the type of work. I don't just do grants, I do resource development. So that is making sure that initiatives are successful, whether it's through funding or through partnerships or other activities. I've been 100% successful in all of the grants that I've applied for through Business Oregon in the last 3 months. And we are waiting to hear back on our Economic Development Administration dollars. My other clients who are more nonprofits so far have been anywhere from 50 to 70%. That's really high. I'm just giving you the most.
Is that because of CARES money? Right.
I think it's because of the environment. I think a really good average is somewhere around 30 to 40% for most people who are strictly doing grant writing. But grant writing I like to think of as the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last part of what you have to do. The bulk of that work is the relationship building, the due diligence work so you don't run into surprises, getting feedback from funders and donors about the good fit. I mean, Stan was talking a lot about stuff like that and what he was saying.
So you've been in business how long?
I just launched my business in April, actually, but I
Okay.
have been in the fundraising field and for about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Schmelzer?
So I'm trying to wrap my head around the, I guess the ask. The agenda says that you're here to talk to us about non-congregate housing funding. So our county doesn't get engaged or fund housing, homeless housing or anything like that. So is the proposal that the county would sponsor a grant or something to help the nonprofit? Or what is the ask or the proposal for the county on this?
So I can step in and help you guys navigate how to answer that question a little bit. So each county is taking a different model about how they do non-congregate shelter. Lincoln County, for example, is doing it internally, and they're actually parole and probation officer who's actually in charge of getting people into housing, managing their wraparound services, because a lot of them are also parole and probation clients. And then you have Lynn County, who is working with a local nonprofit, Chance, and Benton County is actually working with the same one, who the county signs up for FEMA public assistance. The county gets the award letter to do non-congregate shelter because it runs on average anywhere I've been seeing $80,000 to $100,000 a month in potential costs depending on what your population is. And then in their case, they do a sub-award to a nonprofit who's actually doing the work. Because I know counties don't want to get into the business of doing all these programs themselves. So you can do a sub-award over to other nonprofits who are actually doing this work.
So it sounds like in this case, we would need a proposal from a nonprofit to understand what the ask is. You would help write that funding. It would get awarded to the county. We would have an MOU with that nonprofit, and that nonprofit would then implement it.
If that sounds like that's the best fit for your county, then
Okay.
yes.
And I haven't seen a proposal yet from a nonprofit, so we might be a little premature on it, but that's good to know that
Right.
that's available to us.
Well, in the process, so you'd want to make sure too that the county has to be the applicant for FEMA. The nonprofit is not the applicant for
Correct,
FEMA.
yeah.
So you can start that process now. And if you actually want to get non-congregate shelter, I'm not sure of the state of it right now, and so I don't know what you guys are offering or not offering. But getting that award up and running so that you have it in place so that when somebody's ready to either expand or start up non-congregate shelter, that it's ready to go for reimbursement is really important.
So you're saying that we could get an award without a proposal or plan or idea of what it would cost?
So what we would do is some due diligence. The application for doing the pre-award requires you to have some idea of the cost of hotel rooms per night, as well as the other services like cleaning, providing transportation. But between my contacts at AOC and the counties I've worked with, I have a decent idea of what those costs could be. And so you put those into an award letter and get that process rolling.
So I know in our county, Commissioner Boyce took on a project to find a housing coordinator with some other counties. So has that been approved yet? It has? So it's probably a matter of that person working with you or to try and then a nonprofit, and then whatever they come up with, bring it back to the board for the proposal and the MOU.
Right.
Okay, so we're just so I understand the
Yeah,
process.
no, it's
so
complicated.
we're really just going to sit back and wait to see what is brought to us for approval then, and an MOU after that.
Right, and I don't know, so with reopening plans, counties were required to submit to the governor how they were going to address non-congregate shelter needs.
Mhm.
So there's probably already some level of detail there as to what the
We did do
county-
that, yes, yeah. Mhm.
Mr. Gold?
One last question. You mentioned FEMA and a 25% match that the counties would have to do. Now, question, is that match going to come out of probably the CARES fund right now, but maybe not later, or?
Yes, so CARES funding can be used as match. That's what I would recommend using for the time being. And then, you know, none of us exactly know how long this pandemic and the emergency declaration is going to be continuing, but it's a way to stretch your dollars for sure, and not tap into any general fund.
And then after that, the county would be responsible for that 25%, I would assume?
Yes, the county's responsible for that 25% no matter where it comes from, correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you. Director Smelzer mentioned the connection we have. She indirectly mentioned with Coos County. I didn't think of that, and you know they're sitting at 90 cases now. We had 19 cases, no deaths in either county, and so part of what I really picked up on was your work with Lincoln County, because we know 45 days ago that was a real hot spot. And surprising because it was on the coast. And we had our teleconference with you and 2 or 3 of our citizens here. When you say the award, and if I'm following correctly here, my presumption there was that the award is to qualify us for those FEMA funds when, correct me if I'm wrong, when and if we have an outbreak and we don't have housing to isolate these people. And I want to make sure that the citizens hear that that has got to be our biggest focus, and that's what these folks, the letters I read in the beginning, the folks that are down there every day, 24/7, trying to monitor this. I just don't know if we're giving them enough help. I see that if that's true, or even if it isn't, I see this is a very important step to prepare for what may be coming. Of course, we're all in the same boat of COVID's going to go away. We can hope and pray. But we've got a responsibility here to have a little vision and try and determine what our, again, that next step is. So, good clarifications.
Commissioner, if I may, on just
Oh,
what
I'm
you,
sorry,
what you
yes.
noted too, you want to have it in preparation, but I also know, and I'm guessing you guys have something of a similar issue here, is that space is limited, right? And so one of the things they struggled up with in Lincoln County is that come tourist season, which we're in the heat of right now, which we all don't know when's going to end because kids aren't going back to school in person in a lot of places, that they didn't have space. Their hotel rooms and motel rooms were being used up, and so this money can actually also be used to pre-lease spaces within hotels and motels,
Yep.
Which is great. A couple other things I just want to throw out there that other counties are doing is that some counties are using this as an opportunity to get their houseless population into housing, at least temporarily, to help get them off the streets. It is a great opportunity because the homeless population qualifies for this FEMA funding whether or not they have COVID, because they are such a high-risk community for spreading the pandemic. Other counties are looking at purchasing hotels and motels that are maybe on the edge of going out of business and are voluntarily looking to sell. That's an option as well that can be done. You can combine FEMA, CARES, sometimes CDBG, Community Development Block Grant money to make that happen. So there's a lot of opportunities on the table.
I think I'm following good, and I think we need to hopefully within the next weeks really move forward on this and not lose more time because of that outbreak that might come out. And I think the citizens might be interested to know that this is my opinion, that perhaps you can support this or not. There's only been a month ago, 5 weeks ago, there was only 8 counties that tended to, let me rephrase that, that followed through with AOC recommendations and tentative business on this. And now I think, a break you mentioned, that's up to 12.
It's somewhere in the range of 10
And I think
to
that's what
12
I
who
heard.
have, regardless, it's irregardless of AOC, but there's about 10 to 12 statewide of our 36 counties who have applied for this and been granted the non-congregate shelter award.
Okay, and there's no initial cost to our county.
There's no initial cost. You can do it one of two ways. You can go through AOC and I can bill them and they can bill you. That's a little bit complicated if you ask me. If you guys have CARES funding that you can tap into. And last I checked, you guys had about $500,000, this is just the state's calculations of CARES funding left. You can use that and do a contract with me directly. Either way is fine, whatever you're more comfortable with.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, one more thing. I'm sorry. I just saw an old friend was giving me a bad time out the door there. Hi, Dennis. Yes, sir. Come back. You owe me lunch. Hey, I just, you know, the reason I push this a little bit there at the end is because I want Curry County not to lag behind and be the last one to get in the boat, because it's getting more intense every day, and proud of the fact we only have 19 and no deaths, and 14 are recovered, you know, 5 are active, no hospitalizations. But, you know, it's kind of like the grant writer we visited with earlier today, and you commented, the more professionals that are outside of our county that want to help and know their business, the better off we are. And so, Board, that's why I was very anxious to get Ms. Maddox-Hughes here and make this presentation. And yeah, I tend to really follow AOC closely, and if they say, boy, if there's any way you can accelerate this, it's a no cost at least. And of course, also we talked about CARES relief funds on the break, and Economic Development Coordinator Madison and myself, probably Miranda Plaguey, are going to have a little bit of a presentation on the 26th with the gloves are coming off a little bit from the counties and the state on that national funding coming through the state and the pass-through and not getting to the counties.
Not getting the full amount, I know.
Yeah, so it's, I hope cool heads prevail, but I think our people are really wanting to make sure that Curry County is positioned well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do apologize, but I have to leave in just a few minutes because I have to drive back home here today with my dog and my kid.
Thank you. Ms. Hidalgo?
Now we're in trouble.
No. Thank you. Beth Barker Hidalgo, and I am here to comment on the FEMA Public Assistance on Congregate Shelter Funding. In, let's see, the last less than 60 days, the coalition was awarded $10,000 from All Care for rapid rehousing, which has gone 100% into hotel rooms, and we're down to about $750 left of those funds. I can't even begin to calculate what ORCA is spending through CARES Act funding to house people in motels in Curry. They have had people from Port Orford to Brookings for now 4 months that have been continuously housed in motels. They either have underlying health issues, age is a risk factor for them contracting COVID, and primarily these are unhoused folks. So they're roaming through our communities, they're going into our grocery stores to use our restrooms, they're not being monitored. What Diana is doing at St. Tim's right now is the most aggressive monitoring that I know of our homeless population that's happening right now. We do screen everyone that comes to our resource center for temperature. We screened a young lady yesterday and our thermometer just beeped off the hook and she went into tears. She was standing in our lobby and just fell apart, went into tears. I advocated, coached, called the triage line. We got her over to the ER to get a test. Don't know the results yet. But these guys don't have, you know, we all get to go home to our homes and have a door we can close. We have probably a primary care provider that we can rely on for health care. We probably have established networks of support. These folks don't. And so for them, they're very frightened. And if we can get them to come in and get tested, that's a big hurdle in and of itself. But they look at us and say, so now what? So what? Where do I go? How do I self-isolate? And they're instructed by a nurse on the triage hotline to self-isolate based on the symptoms they're reporting. And they ask how are they to do that? And not one referral to DHS, ORCA, the coalition, nothing. The phone was blank. The person on the other end had no idea how to refer this person to services, to options for. So, and, you know, I stand up here and say these things to you guys. You're probably sick of hearing from me. I know I don't get a lot of eye contact. So I understand that it's a difficult topic, but I'm here to ask for your consideration of applying for these non-congregate shelter funding. You have the option of us as a nonprofit to manage the actual work. And I believe Rachel shared that in other counties, they are working closely with their community action agencies. So for us, that would be ORCA. They're already doing non-congregate sheltering now. So that's a logical fit if we move forward with this application. And lastly, I will just tell you that we are bumping up against no vacancies. Every Thursday, we get a new case, a new family on our caseload, and we can't find any place to put them for the weekend. I have a family of 5 right now that is frustrated. They're up on Miller Bar. We spent $300 on camping equipment for them because not one motel in the county would take a family size. They didn't have a room large enough for a family of 5. That was what we were told. Even under a pandemic, they won't make an exception and roll a cot into a room with 2 beds and house a family of 5. So, you know, we had them in a campground. They had to leave the campground because there was another reservation coming in. So now they're on Miller Bar. How long will it be before they're told to move along? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Mr. Barnes? Pass? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Moving on to 6, consent agenda. A, corrected minutes for 7/1/20 business meeting. E, transfer of an employee. F, adoption of a position description for a new position. G, reclassification of an employee. H, issue credit card to juvenile counselor 2. I, MOU, Memo of Understanding with Curry County Fairgrounds and Emergency Management. J, SEIU Agreement 20 through 23. K, Board Approval with Signature Authority of the Roadmaster on $75,500 Flexible Service Maintenance Agreement with the State of Oregon to reimburse Curry County Road Department its cost for labor and equipment to assist state with Carpenterville Road Chip Seal Project. L, accept funds from All Care 3562 and from Advanced Health for 1862. And M, to accept grant for the MAP grant program. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move, Mr. Chair,
I'll
to
second.
approve the consent agenda as you just aptly outlined.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, next we're moving to 7A. Board Chair signature on a $5,000 FLAP grant match agreement to keep moving forward with $3 million flat grant paving project on Jerry's Flat Road in 2022. Mr. Christensen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, in 2018, the Road Department applied for a FLAP grant, and in 2019, we were awarded this $3,175,000 project to pave 7.1 miles of Jerry's Flat Road, plus repair guardrails on 2 of its bridges. To keep things moving forward, we need our Commissioner Chair to sign an agreement for $5,000 to kind of lay out the responsibilities and roles, and that the County Road Department is prepared to pay $326,000 towards the $3.1 million project. And so this project is to, I plan on budgeting this $326,000 in 2022 for this project. I just would like to just keep moving forward.
I'd love to make that motion, Chair. To approve the board signature authority for the Jerry's Flat Road Match agreement, as you just said, keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Mr. Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Now, how about that for timing? It is 10:59:32, and we have a public hearing at 11 a.m.
And Mr. Roadmaster, the next time you come here, we're going to figure out a way to get him forward. He's been here 2 hours. Say hi to your crew. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to enter into a public hearing to adopt federal, including Federal Transit Administration, Oregon Department of Transportation grant spending rules. With Council Huddle, will narrate this. So at this time, this public hearing is now open.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll just give a quick staff report. Essentially, this is, I think, the last item on, as a result of the audit of our transit district, where we were to put in subcontracting rules that met the federal grant spending requirements. We've worked with ODOT, who administers federal transportation dollars through the state and to us, and these have been approved by them. They're in the record if anyone has any questions. They're substantially similar to the competitive and contracting rules that we already have, but we've just got these as a standalone set of rules. We've advertised in the Daily Journal of Commerce statewide and in the 2 local papers here in the county, this public hearing. And unless there's any questions, I'll just respond if there's public comments.
Do I have any public comments? They are now open. Seeing none, public comments are now closed. Council Huddle?
Just request board approval of the contracting rules.
I move that we approve the contracting rules for the Federal Transit Administration.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Next, we have our director's report. Ms. Schmelzer.
So I have a couple things. One thing is JJ has brought to my attention that we might want to take a look at our meeting schedule. Since the first of the year, we've canceled almost 20% of the meetings that we had originally scheduled. So I think we need to look at that and see which ones typically are being canceled and then come back with a revised meeting schedule. Normally it wouldn't be a big issue, but a lot of departments rely on that schedule to know when they should be submitting things. And if we're not going to be having the meeting, we can just relay it and let them know what dates they should be submitting it. I think it also helps the public to know what meetings are out there instead of constantly canceling things. We did have one meeting in particular, I remember earlier this summer, where people showed up and the meeting had been canceled, but they weren't aware of it. So if we can maybe just tighten up that meeting schedule a little bit, I think it would help everybody. So I'm going to be looking at that. Just an update on our audit. They are getting closer. As you know, it was supposed to be done quite a while ago. They're still looking for some information, but I think that we're getting real close to finalizing that audit. Commissioner Gold has been really instrumental in making sure that we keep that moving along, so I think we're getting close on that.
Thank goodness.
Yes. Moss Adams, as you know, has been contracted to do an audit of our payroll. We're about halfway through that process, and we expect to have the results for you by the end of the month that we can share with you on that one. There, as far as replacing my replacement, you know, the board had earlier this year we had advertised for a finance director. As you know, we didn't have any applicants. Then we went out and we advertised for a consultant to do finance work. No one applied for that. The board did decide with my position to advertise for a finance/admin person and see how that went. We were successful in getting some applicants. You did interview some. We had one that came in last minute when the day you were reviewing those. And so my understanding is she wasn't looked at closely, but I have looked at it and I do think the board should provide her an interview. She has very strong finance skills and accounting skills. She doesn't have a lot in the government sector, but she does have business management experience. She has leadership experience. She has she's done some finance work in healthcare, economic development. She's been an office manager. So I think it is something that we should look at and schedule a Zoom meeting for if you're willing to do that. So I don't know if you want to just give me direction to schedule that. So, okay.
All right.
Could you get that's fine with me. Could you get another copy of her application, send it via email
Absolutely.
or whatever?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Once we schedule it, we'll send you a copy of that.
Mr. Chair? when you
Yes.
can- No, I remain opposed in that I think we're going the wrong direction here. That's what was very important to me to try and communicate to the board today, just a unofficial, slight, different approach to reorganizing our BOC office with a focus on a separate financial director, and I've done a lot of work last couple of days to try and fill that gap, and I've got information I can present to the board, would like to do it publicly, and it might give you some assurance that there is another way, and I just losing another week, and then we're going to do another interview, and I think we need to catch up and take a look at a different approach, and it's quite a burden on us to responsibly look at other options. So,
Well, I think this board's absolutely open to looking at other options. I'm actually hopeful that you'll share what you're going to present to the board next week in more detail to us, so that we can kind of be abreast of what you're going to talk about next week. It'd be great.
okay, but I wish I wouldn't have lost the week. We've already had that discussion, so thank you. But in terms of finance director as a separate position and what are options out there in the corner of Southwest Oregon, I have some things that I can present to you and everybody here that I think might interest you. And I think it would be very wise not to close that door. At least, again, I don't want to delay it for a week, but I don't know. It's pretty basic, so that the board is assured that I only gathered data, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. And as we know, we've had 5 finance directors in 4 years, exactly 4 years, starting with when Gary Short left, unfortunately. So we need to get some stability. I'm not saying something that you don't understand or I'm sure agree with, but I don't feel like we're doing our job right now.
Okay.
I really don't.
Ms. Schmelzer, continue on with your comments, please.
Okay, so we have been, I've been working with Main Street on the Wedderburn Triangle, that area across from the store in Wedderburn, to enhance that. It's actually DOT property, and so we've been working with the DOT, Coos Curry Electric, and our road department and Main Street to see how together we can improve that area. So we'll be bringing some MOUs forward to you on that as soon as we have more details on that. We are, as you know, quite a while ago we were told that we needed to revise our employee job descriptions to be compliant with the pay equity law. So I talked with Julie Swift. We're still working on that. It's something that I plan to do this fall before I leave, to make sure that we do get those updated, so we are compliant on that. We do have a management handbook. It's pretty outdated. Last update was in 2017, I believe, so we're going to be looking at updating that this fall yet too. And then we have had some discussions off and on with managers about a need to improve our onboarding or our employee orientation process. At our last management meeting, some ideas were thrown out on that. So we're looking at improving that process. So there's actually a formal thing to do better orientation, which hopefully will result in better employee retention on that matter. So those are the things that we're working on, or the big projects that we got going on right now.
Okay.
That's it.
Quick question for you, because I'm not usually kept in the loop on this one. OpenGov, what's the scheduling for OpenGov to get put in?
OpenGov is going pretty good. This week we're going to have a meeting on Thursday to just wrap up the chart of accounts, and then we're going to start doing training on Monday, and we're doing that with the finance staff. So it would be Sina, Julie, and Carrie, and myself. And then I've invited Summer Sears, who's our consultant who's been working on the budget, only because as she has agreed to help us with next year's budget if we do a contract, including her so she understands the back side of that as well. Once we get the employees trained on that, then the finance employees trained on that, then we can open it up to the other departments. But that should be happening this month.
Is there any possibility for someone like me to sit in on
Absolutely.
some of that? 'Cause I
Sure.
like to be involved
You're the
in that.
finance department liaison, so I can include you on that.
Okay,
Right
good.
now, like I said, it's that back side of it to understand that
Yeah.
part of it, but we can certainly do that. So we're looking at Monday for that.
Great, thank you.
Question related, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So, you mentioned Summer Sears. Does that lock her in with us? Maybe that's a hopeful down the road, but she's going to be in on the training, and of course I want to know what the cost is on that. Where are we at on that?
The cost of Summer doing the training?
All the above. I assume
Well,
that was included, but I can't remember, honestly.
Yeah, so as far as the cost for OpenGov, that's as we contracted, so I don't have those exact numbers, of course, here. And with Summer, I don't know if she's charging us for the training on that. We have not locked into a contract with her yet for the budget, but she has told us that she is interested. So if we don't have a finance person who can do the budget by that time, she has told us that she is interested in helping us. So.
Okay, I spent some time on the phone with her too, and so just seeing what her future would be and going back and forth between finance and HR. I have a big concern, Mr. Chair, that I'm still down on OpenGov, at least for the $400,000 it'll cost us next 3 or 4 years, give or take, and then bringing in a new finance person if Summer isn't, online, hopefully a longer period of time. So we're bringing in a new finance director, presumably, and a new program, and our people are telling us, stay with Casella. At least, I don't want to quote anybody here and get them in trouble, but it's good information to know. Stay with the Casella program at least for a reasonable amount of time so we can catch up. Appreciate your comments on the audit. As I understand, it's about 80% done. That's the 18-19 audit. So I'm not pointing a finger or complaining. I know what we've been up against, but I am saying, I just want the public to know it's not the most updated. The other one's coming around the pike any minute. So repeating, the cost of OpenGov, not stable yet within the Curry County system, and then we don't have anybody to really, at this point right now, we don't have anybody really to monitor and administer that. So I'm just seeing those yellow blinking lights. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that time.
Well, it's your comment time now anyway, so.
Oh, I need my mouse. I know you.
Oh, I'll grab it for you.
Oh, you shouldn't have to.
As far as the OpenGov thing, I understand that OpenGov is going to remain
Thanks a million.
hands-on with that for a year after it's in our system. So, it takes those yellow lights and turns them green when you've got them here to administer the program and get our people side by side up to speed with it for 30 or 60 days, I think it was. And then after that, they are available by a phone call. I also find it interesting that one of the applicants we interviewed the other day, we asked him, have you ever used Casella? And he said, no, I haven't. We said, have you ever used OpenGov? And he says, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that.
I missed that somehow.
I even brought it back up to him again in a passing comment.
Okay.
It was the first one that we interviewed.
Still can't, since we're on that subject, and this will be part of my presentation on the workshop, which, by the way, we can't make a decision on a workshop, so we will lose another week, which is really disheartening to me. And one of the things I've been communicating publicly is that 6 out of the 8 elected officials, when John Hitt was here, our first county administrator, 6 out of the 8 wanted to keep him. And if we'd have kept him even on an interim basis, I wonder where we would be right now. Because we know, especially in 2018, thousands of dollars went out the door. Thousands. So I'll make this as short as I can, folks. Oh my goodness. No. Here, I think this. We're, this just let people know as of today, we're in extreme fire danger. Quickly, California has 30 fires. I heard from an email I got that some of them are out of control. I don't know how valid that is, but we just need to be aware some of our firefighters might be headed south, especially from the state level. And, here it is, the 19th. General rule, fire history. If it starts in August or even late August, before it really gets a run at taking a lot of acreage, it usually fizzles out. So I am so thankful that we have not had, or did not have, a lightning fires, I should say, excuse me, in July, especially early July. This is a letter from the Josephine County Board of Commissioners. If the public wants to review this, it is tremendously well written. It has to do with schools, children, what they're up against, and the state basically doing a blanket rule for all 36 counties. That sounds just a little general, but I would encourage, I'd like to read it, but I know it's 11:15. But it is powerful on the concerns they have for the well-being of their children. And just one right here, 550 without access to the internet for the school year. 423 students are homeless. And I'm sure Director Smelzer can verify that group over there, they're not ones to go exaggerate anything. So I know you and Mrs. Pash's heart for kids, it just stops your heart. And so, again, I would just encourage anyone that, I may ask you, Economic Coordinator Madison also read this. I think she read it a couple of times just for the impact it has. We may come back, come back to the board and say, do we want to support this? I think you received this in your email packets. Yeah, and another one very similar coming up. I'm going to skip this one till next week. Actually, it's a big disappointment. It wasn't. It was only for cities. It was some of the first rules amendments to the Senate Bill 100, clear back in 1973, did not include counties. So I think over time, people that represent us at the state level probably will try and get that to include counties. But I don't have good news to report there. This is something similar, equally well written from Lynn County. I have great affirmation for this commission board. John Lindsay and Will Tucker. He spends 1 month a year in Africa, the mission, just tremendous guys. I don't know Mr. Nyquist, but Clerk Cohen does. I had kind of an honor on August 12th, and I will be working, I don't know how I'm going to be able to help on the 26th. I think it's an afternoon meeting. I'm trying to figure that out. We have the 2 o'clock workshop. But myself and one commissioner from Washington County on the Forest Collaboratives, the work we're doing with Southern Oregon Forest Collaborative and also our Wild Rivers Coast Collaborative. But it was a webinar, and they told me 90 people were on there. And of course, my position was fire preparedness, fire awareness, but it also had to do with funding coming back to the county. So I do see some good things happening there. I hope to have more of a detailed report down the road on, it really does come back to Senator Wyden and Senator Crapo from Idaho and their Senate Bill 1643 on the endowment. So that is gaining a little bit of headway. It's a bipartisan thing, and it would have tremendous positive impact if they can get that through the president and through the House in the years ahead. So they just had some comments on some of the folks that tuned into that Zoom. Next week we'll have Coos Creek Electric be here, both the executive director, Brent Bischoff, and then Paul Rescanzoni on broadband for Curry County. I'm very impressed with the work that Coos Curry is doing and how it can impact our schools. This is a letter I've sent in support of Ziply, which is they are hitting from Coos Bay all the way down and trying to work with Coos Creek Electric, and so that's some very good news. One other thing, got a call from Coos Forest Protective Association the other day. They have budgeted for a 500-gallon, bladder for Lobster Creek Camp. And it'd be for firefighting, a big water bladder. And so they're going to work with Parks Coordinator, DeRock, and I'm going to get in on that. Do you have an update on that too?
Yeah,
Please.
just that Mr. DeRock is going to try and do a presentation at next week's meeting on all the fire prevention measures they're taking at Lobster Creek to make sure we don't have issues this year.
Yeah, and you know that's, and I'm looking at yes, I'll make a report on that later, but good news on that, and very proud of our relationship with Goose Forest, and got a call 10 days ago, so I think that's all I got.
All right.
Can I just interrupt real quick?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce, you had asked us to give you an update on what staff was doing regarding the conversation we had on camping at pullouts.
Oh, yes.
And you want to give
Great.
an update today, so do you want to give that?
Who wants to?
You had asked us to give you an update so you could report on it today.
With you and...
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and do it?
Okay, just basically that after our workshop, you know, we were like, what can the county do to help manage or get the word out about camping at pullouts and to be more vigilant? So staff reached out to different groups and tourism organizations to see if they could get a message out to the public on websites and press releases, etc. on, you know, yes, you can do this, but please be cautious. Please don't leave litter, things of that nature. So we just wanted to make sure the board knew, or Commissioner Boyce just wanted to make sure the board knew that we are doing something about it. We are trying to do something through the tourism arm of the county to address those concerns.
Hey,
thank you.
I can read it for you if you want. It was very well done, by the way. So we introduced the topic. This is from Economic Development Coordinator Madison. So we introduced the topic to the team focus on tourism, which I commented to her. This is great follow through. I had asked if we had any work on that, and so in the meantime, collaborate with the councils of Gold Beach and Brookings to draft a letter in support of responsible creation on Highway 101 turnouts, with communications continuing with state parks in the process. Collected the restricted resources from federal agencies, state, county, CFPA, and public health. In parentheses, the restrictions continue to be updated weekly. So emphasis is disseminating and highlighting those direct resources in an effort to deter from communicating dated information. We've shared a bit of this on county social media outlets. I will share the outcomes on the plan, hopefully, for you to give an update on the business meeting Wednesday, if you would like. This was on the 14th, so we'll just have, if you agree and needed, have Ms. Madison come in and do that. Good work.
If the board wants, she can. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Commissioner Gold?
I wanted to report on the buses that the Curry Transit District is going to be giving away to some nonprofits. And first of all, I reached out to our veterans, and that they were unable to use it. But Gold Beach School District is going to be accepting a free bus. And I'm also working with Port Orford School District because they have trouble transporting their kids sometimes. And these buses are really good because they don't require anybody to have a special license to drive them. Also, there's a new CHIP or Curry CHIP website that's through All Care, and I was wondering if you would want to put that as an attachment on our website. So just checking. I can give that link to JJ. And All Care grants are continuing, so we're moving in a good direction there, especially with the CARES funding. And that's it.
I have a couple brief comments. First, somebody spoke a minute ago about our parks coordinator. I want to say that I got a letter from a citizen in the county in the last couple of days complimenting him on their stay and what a great job he has done with the limited resources that he has and the position that he was handed. They were extremely happy, understanding that the parks are very full right now and there's a lot going on. We've had a lot of challenges, so I wanted to commend him on his work and bring that out. We so often get waylaid with bad stuff, and it's just nice to give somebody some good news every now and then. Another issue that where I believe Curry County will face, as many counties across the country will, if we don't get back to school, because a lot of businesses that are suffering because there's a lot of moms that can't be back at work because they're home taking care of their kids, that want to bring the mothers back to work. There's a lot of homes that are suffering, actually because everyone is home. And when you read the national statistics on the amount of times police are called to home disputes now versus 6 months ago, it's a crazy number. But I also want to mention that there is some pounding of the feet and on the blacktop in a state by state, perhaps county by county, class action lawsuits for taxes that are paid into schools. If the schools aren't going to be open, there's a group of attorneys, of course, that want to open class action lawsuits to bring those tax dollars back to the taxpayers because the schools weren't open, the services weren't rendered. Something that our school board in this county might want to look into. I understand the governor has a mandated order. This is rural Oregon. I think our situation is different, and I don't see her as seeing Curry County as anything different than she does Portland. I think our people want to get back to work, get back to school here for the most part. For the limited amount of people that don't, they could homeschool or find the video schooling as they're talking about. But it's something that our school districts here might want to look at, is the possibilities and ramifications should they not reopen that could happen here. And it would be a serious thing. Those are my comments. I'd like to, if I could, counsel, we're going to go into executive session. I'd like to amend their executive session also to a hiring of an employee that we spoke about in the last executive session, which would be the replacement for Ms. Schmelzer.
Oh, sure.
I'll make some comments on that if
Okay.
I could. All right, so with that, we are going to recess this meeting and go into executive session. Per 1926602H to consult with counsel on legal rights and duties of a public body. And I'm not sure of an A for hiring of an employee. Upon coming back out of executive session, we will bring this meeting back in. We'll take a quick 5-minute recess. It is 12:21 and staff is to proceed as directed from executive session with nothing further. This meeting is adjourned.